It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Start Spreading the News Yankee podcast. Paul Semendinger here, along with my dear friend, Dr. E.J. Fagan. But first, just a reminder that this wonderful program is brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. Artemisia is a traditional publisher located in the United States of America in New Mexico. They have a plethora of great books, including many or numerous written by me. That includes Roy White's autobiography. That includes The Least Among Them. And in the Yankee pantheon, if that's even a thing, of books by me, the newest one, which we'll talk about more in the future, will come out next February. But my dear friends, enough about all of that. Let's welcome the great EJ. EJ, how are you this evening?
Doing wonderful. February. That's starting. That's less than a year away. It's getting close.
You know, when he decided, the publisher, that it was going to be February, it was like 13 months ago, 13 months in the future. And now, you know, it's almost May. I mean, February's right around the corner, it seems. So good stuff.
Yeah. So Paul, I have a question for you. Aaron Judge has 25 coming in today's game, 25 plate appearances this year against left-handed pitching. I would like you to guess his batting average, on base percentage, and slugging percentage.
Oh boy, EJ, I don't know if you're tricking me. All right,
I don't know if I'm tricking you either.
I'm going to go with it. I'm going to play it straightforward, and there is the argument that he's hitting 0 or something, like 122, and he's killing right-handed pitching. But I'm going to go the opposite way and assume that he's murdering left-handed pitching. So against lefties, Judge is hitting 425. His on-base percentage is 511, and his slugging is 762.
Paul, you undershot it by a lot. He has 25 plate appearances against left-handed pitching. That is 20 at-bats, and he has 10 hits, 4 home runs, 2 doubles. That is a 500 batting average. He has 5 walks. That makes it a 600 slugging percentage, and 600 on-base percentage, and a slugging percentage of 1.2.
I thought I was being too generous.
Aaron Judge is murdering left-handed pitching, and there's a lot of Yankees with splits like that, and maybe we'll talk about some of them in our segment upcoming. But I just saw that. I was going around everybody's splits on the splits page, and just damn, right? Like that is that is incredible. It's only 25 plate appearances, obviously, but you want to know how you hit 400? Well, you can do it by hitting 500 against lefties. Pretty good.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
it is amazing. Now, so what we're going to do, EJ, we've got a lot to talk about. We always do. We should really do this every single night. I'm only kidding. We shouldn't. I don't know if I have that much energy to do this every single night.
I do not.
We are going to play one good, one bad with Dr. EJ, who is now a Yankee physician. I'm going to name a player. EJ is going to say one good thing about his 2025 season, one bad thing about his 2025 season, and then EJ is going to give a prognosis. Take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning. This guy's going to win the MVP or whatever. And then after we do about 5 players, EJ has a fascinating post that is very deep, very statistical based, and we're going to have EJ explain all that, having to do with how offense is down around baseball, but yet some players are performing at levels that are unheard of, like Aaron Judge.
Mr. Aaron Judge, yes.
Yes, Shohei Ohtani's another one, and you mentioned Juan Soto in the article, so we'll get to that. But let's play the prognosis. One good, one bad game. And we'll start with the Yankee first baseman, Paul Goldschmidt.
So have you seen Paul Goldschmidt splits? Because I'm going to give you one good
Paul Goldschmidt's crushing lefties also and doing miserably against righties. The last I checked, that was true.
You would be correct. Again, this is going into tonight. I think he had a hit against a righty tonight. But this is going into tonight. Paul Goldschmidt, actually, do you want to guess his batting line? This is another fun one. His batting line against left-handed pitching. I'll tell you his batting line against right-handed pitching. It's 283, so he's gotten some hits, but that's about it. 302 with a 317 slug.
Yeah, he's not slugging at all. He has walked a few times against lefties. I'll give him.
He's got 2 walks against righties. It's not good. It's not. He is not really playable against righties right now.
Right, and you've made that point before, and you even made that point because you're so brilliant before the season, and said that.
Well, I can read a split, right? I mean, it's not brilliant, right? I mean, this is a 37-year-old first baseman. Right? He's still good at one thing. But not much else.
Listen, I wrote articles before the season. People debated me and told me I was crazy by just looking at statistics, looking at Carlos Carrasco and saying he really hasn't been good since 2019.
Another one that does not take a genius to look at. Yeah.
Yes. And the same thing for Marcus Stroman. I said his numbers have gotten worse every year for the last 4 years. And people are saying, no, you're not giving him credit. He was injured. And Carlos Carrasco had a hangnail in 2024. And he had an upset belly in 2022. This year he's going to do it. I'm like, no, he's not. So, yeah, I hear you about just looking at numbers. But so what's your one good and what's your one bad about
So Goldschmidt? My one bad about Goldschmidt is he's not hitting right-handed pitching at all. My one good about Goldschmidt is that against left-handed pitching, he is currently hitting 565.
That was higher than I would have gone.
With a 643 on base and an 826 slug. Just a machine against left-handed hitting. I wish the Yankees had the courage to pinch hit for him late in games, to not start him against a lot of righties. Maybe when Stanton gets back, we'll see a little more of that. But yeah, pretty impressive right now.
Crazy. So what's your prognosis for Goldie?
I mean, I think I think right now there's not really another first baseman you play. And maybe like Oswaldo a little bit, but he's playing third pretty well, and I don't think you want to move him over there. Rice is your primary DH. You don't really have a lot of options. So the only real option against righties is to put Grisham in the field and DH Judge or something like that, and then Rice can play first. I think we'll see a little bit more of that as the season goes on. I don't know. I was talking about this on the Bronx Beat podcast last night. Goldschmidt has changed his swing a lot from last year. So if you look at his stats last year, he's basically like a power hitter, right? He strikes out more than average, hits the ball a little harder than average, gets some home runs, sacrificed a little batting average late in his career. Like just normal power hitting, big, strong first baseman stuff. And this year is just a completely different profile. He is a straight up contact hitter this year. I mean, doing exactly what you'd expect a kind of a light hitting contact hitter to do. So he has one of the best. Some of the better expected batting averages in the league. Expected batting average of 330. Really good squaring up. Really good at not striking out. Really good at not swinging through pitches. Right, just in general, like those stats are all pretty good. And then his exit velocity is below average. His barrel rate's below average. His hard hit percentage is below average. He's just like poking him into the outfield. And maybe that's a good strategy. My weird theory about this is like maybe this is a torpedo bat thing. That he kind of realized that with the torpedo bat, he could get a little more contact and he had to change his swing for it. Maybe, he's got to swing a little bit earlier so that he hits the ball a little less hard, but is able to make solid contact. I don't know. I don't know how sustainable this is. Statcast doesn't think he's really getting all that lucky. They just think that he's just a very different profile, just a little bit weird for Goldschmidt, but he's playing, seems like good defense to me. Base running is fine. So, like, I don't think the Yankees are on net getting hurt by Goldschmidt, but I think they could really do better by not playing him against righties.
All right, so that's the prognosis. Now, here's one. Boy, oh boy, last week I made a comment about this player. You set me right, and then I think, based upon what I saw, he had a bad week, and it's getting worse. So, Anthony Volpe, one good, one bad, and a prognosis.
I'm not sure how bad of a week he had. A good night last night, and I think tonight. Look, I think that Anthony Volpe looks like a low average, high power-ish hitter. who plays really good defense. And the overall package is really good. I mean, Volpe tonight got another hit and a walk. His OPS is now well above average, and I've been really impressed with his defense this year. I think he's got more range than I think each year he's added a little bit of range. And it's going to take some time before we have numbers to really kind of justify that. But him and Jazz, I think, are just dynamic up the center. I'm really impressed with the two of them. There's been some plays that Volpe hasn't made, like a couple of like soft ground balls in that's been kind of conspicuous, but like I just think those were not really makeable plays. Sometimes when a player has a lot of range, they get to balls that they can't field. And so it makes you think that they're messing up. Like, it's an error if you get to it and you can't field it, but it's not an error if you never get close to it. I think that you kind of get that vibe with Volpe a little bit. But I've been very confident in his fielding. Couple things. One thing to keep an eye on: his sprint speed's down so far, though everybody's sprint speed is down. So maybe this is just a cold weather thing, or we don't have enough measurements yet. But he's maybe, I don't know, maybe he's slowing down. That'd be one kind of note there. But I think Volpe's fine. One bad thing, he's a low batting average guy. I think if he needs to hit some home runs to maintain being a 700 plus OPS player, that's a little scary because I don't know how much power he really has. The Rays were just throwing him high fastballs, and until the last at bat against the Rays, he was swinging through them. Maybe made an adjustment there. I don't know. Maybe he can't catch up to a high fastball,
which is scary.
It's scary, and it's because maybe Volpe's just not that good of a hitter, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing. I was thinking about like JJ Hardy as a comp. Not the most exciting player in the world, but was a pretty good Major League Baseball player for a while. And if you're paying him not that much money, it's an asset to have him on your team. And maybe that's just who Volpe is. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. I still don't I think he's better than last year, and better than the first year. Right. I think that's pretty clear from what I've seen. And it just matter, he just needs to keep hitting home runs for that to be the case. And I like the version of Volpe that might be a lower average, high home run guy, just because he's a little bit more of a threat. Last year, it was just kind of the worst of both worlds, and you weren't really getting anything out of him. This year you might get a little bit of power, and I think one of the bigger problems is that the Yankees don't have any right-handed hitting, and so they bat him too high in the lineup. So I'd love a world where maybe Jason Dominguez figures it out. We'll talk about him maybe, but where he figures it out, and you can move him up in the order against right-handed hitting pitching a little bit, and Volpe being a consistent, 7, 8, 9 guy. And at that point, I think he's great.
All right. So far, so good. And your prognosis is he's going to continue to improve. Yes.
I think look, his xWOBA right now is 316, 46 percentile. I think that's a very reasonable number for Volpe. It's not great, and 735 OPS. It doesn't feel great, but it's above average. And Statcast thinks he has a little bit of regression to come down based on the batted balls, but average-ish hitter, really good defender, really good base runner, that equates to a pretty good player, and a lot better than last year when he was just a bad hitter.
Right. He was just only a pretty good fielder. Now, here's a guy, everybody thought he was going to be great. And yes, he's hit for some power and he's played some good defense, but my goodness, he hasn't hit at all. At least if you look at the old thing like batting average. Dr. EJ Jazz Chisholm, one good, one bad, and a prognosis.
I mean, the good is his defense, right? I think he's looked fantastic at second base. He's fun to watch at second base. He's got range. He's got a good arm. He's made some tough plays. So I think that's the easy one. The downside is that he's not hitting. I think he's been getting a little bit unlucky. So his xWOBA is 334. His actual WOBA is 290. So there's some bad ball luck there. Today he had a hit just robbed. Line drive was caught.
Double play.
So I think that there's a little bit of that, but just the underlying numbers are not pretty. He strikes out a ton. He feels like an exploitable raw hitter. He's just one of those guys who's crazy talented, crazy athletic. And, I think that has always allowed him, and, at one point won't anymore, to not be the most fundamental baseball player. Javier Baez is a great example of a guy like that. Yeah. He's a guy who has flaws and has always made up for it just by being more athletic than you. And I think that is coming back to bite him right now. He is 10th percentile in whiff rate, 13th percentile in strikeout rate. Last year, he actually improved both of those. He was, only a below average strikeout guy last year. And that allowed the power to really play and to be really special. And had he played second base last year and been a really good second baseman, then he was already a 4-win player. Maybe it would have been worth more. I wonder if he's selling out for the short porch. It's got a lot of home runs. He had another home run today. The torpedo bat thing he's using, you got to make contact for that to help. And he's not making a lot of contact. But also his batting average on balls in play is like 150 or something like that. So I think he has some room to improve, but the ceiling just feels a little lower. He's got the same xWOBA as Anthony Volpe. And, last year he had the same xWOBA as Anthony Volpe. This year he's a 334 xWOBA. It's a little bit better than Volpe, I guess, but I don't know. Like I'm not confident in Chisholm right now. Definitely not someone I'd sign to an extension. Like I really do feel like he's a player that, like, the second he loses it, like his like super fast twitch, like advantage over everybody else, I just think he could go downhill pretty quickly. I think he'll get better though.
Is this a fair comparison that he and Glaber are mirror images of each other? Jazz, great defensively. He's not hitting. Glaber at his best was strong hitting and not great defensively.
I mean, kind of. Look, I think Glaber was really inconsistent. Chisholm hasn't had a good start to the season, but has been a little more consistent throughout his career. He's been injured a bit. I think the problem with Glaber Torres is that he lost all of his athleticism. He was so slow. He had like weird concentration issues in the field that Chisholm doesn't really have. And, he wasn't a guy who's ever going to hit you, 38 home runs without a juice ball. And so what do you have left? You have a decent average hitter who can hit 20 home runs and play bad defense, right? It's just like there's nothing left there under the hood. Whereas Chisholm, there's a ceiling, right? Like if Chisholm is going well, if he figures out how to not strike out a billion times, then he could hit 30 home runs. He could steal 40 bases like he did last year. He could play really good defense, right? Like you have some ability on top of all of that. He can't steal bases if he's not on base. And when you're hitting 157, you're not stealing a lot. He has taken some walks, so that's nice. I actually don't think they're similar players. I think they're
I was thinking mirror image.
I don't think it's the best comparison because, Glaber Torres, I don't think did a lot of things well. Right. Like, I don't know. Like, he hit for a little bit of average, but not really. Right. Hit 257 last year, 273 the year before. Right. Like, that's not an average hitter. That's like it's like a decent, okay hitter. Right. That's not, when you're not hitting for a lot of power, you're not drawing a lot of walks. It just doesn't do much. He struck out. He wasn't a low strikeout guy, high contact guy, except for that like one weird year that he did it. I always hated him being classified as like a guy who's supposed to be like gap to gap, which is just I think like a default thing you say about a middle infielder. I kind of wish he had like bulked up and like tried to just like hit him, like just give me 25 home runs, right? Like I think that might be a better version of Torres, and right now he's putting up a season in Detroit that looks a lot like his last season with the Yankees. And so I don't know, there might not be a lot left there.
Good point. All right. You asked for it. We have two more guys before we get to your very interesting post. So you asked for this one, Jason Dominguez.
Yeah. Another splits one, huh? So like, I think like overall, I think Dominguez has been fine. He hit a big home run today. That really helped his numbers a lot. We're still at the stage of the season where like one good day can really, change your numbers. The expected number is a little worse than the actual numbers, so that's not a great sign. I think his defense has been fine. There was one ball in left field I thought he could have gotten to. That was a little weird, but also it was a weird sun field in Tampa. The wind was super weird in Tampa. The whole Tampa series was weird. Aaron Judge hit a home run easy, and somehow the replay couldn't see it.
Yeah, how does that happen?
I think that they don't have the equipment in place, right? It's a minor league stadium, and the foul poles aren't tall enough.
Right.
And I think they rushed the review. The review was real quick, and we could see on TV like it seemed like a home run to me, and Judge was clear like that was a fair ball. I saw it.
Yeah, it was absolutely fair. I mean, it wasn't even close.
We have StatCast, right? Like we know where the ball is. Like we have radar on the ball. So like what's the question? I think that was if Aaron Judge breaks a record or comes close, I think that's going to be a very controversial non-call.
What if he hits 399.4?
Well, what if he hits 62 home runs or 69 home runs? Right? I mean, he could do it. It's Aaron Judge. He's better. He has gotten better somehow, right?
I don't know how, but he has.
And that ball was maybe the hardest hit ball he's hit all season. That was a really bad call. And I Judge is not someone who. The Judge is somebody who will kind of make excuses for people because he's the captain and he's being diplomatic. In the post-game interview, he's like, that was a fair ball. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like that was clearly a fair ball. They got it wrong. I'm sorry. And terrible call. But let's talk about Dominguez.
Yes.
So Jason Dominguez, I think needs to give up switch hitting. I think that's just the basic, that's just the bottom line. His numbers against righties and lefties are like, we talk about some splits. Like, let's talk about some splits. Jason Dominguez against righties is winning a Rookie of the Year, right? He is 333 with a 381 on base, 487 slug. He hit the home run today. He hit was off a righty, right? Like, and he hit a ball like 450 feet. Like Jason Dominguez can hit righties. He's good at it. Against lefties, this is a guy in 32 plate appearances, but the numbers are bad. 077 with a 250 on base and a 154 slug. Now I understand the instinct to say, don't bench him against lefties. He's young. You want to give him reps. But you look at his minor league numbers, the splits aren't that drastic, but they're big. I don't understand why players cling to switch hitting like that, right? Like the advantage to switch hitting is only an advantage if you don't have a platoon split or if you narrow the platoon split. And Dominguez has, and a lot of young switch hitters are the same way. Like he never developed a right-handed swing. And I get that he's really athletic, and I get that maybe it'd be cool for him to be a Mickey Mantle comparison, whatever, right? Like Bernie Williams, Mickey Mantle, Yankees, we're switch hitters in center field. Great. I think the evidence is so strongly against it. And at this point, if there was a meaningful game, if we were late in the season, if in the playoffs, he would never see a single plate appearance against a left-handed pitcher.
Is it time for him just to bat lefty against lefties? That's
what I would do. I mean, like, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a hitting coach, but I just don't get it. Like, lots of guys who only bat from one side of the plate are good. Like, I don't understand why in the face of just such awful splits, and the splits were bad last year. They weren't that bad the year before that. They were really bad the year before that. So he has 1 year in his career in the minors where he didn't have massive splits. I don't understand it because he clearly has the left-handed swing down right now. And like again today, right? He hit a 450-foot bomb off a righty, and he's going to get exploited by lefties. And it's a problem in part because he's in the righty slot in the lineup. The Yankees are seeing every single left-hander out of the bullpen. And it's because you can get Austin Wells and him, and Oswald Cabrera all from there, against a side that they're not good at. And that's a problem. The Yankees are short a right-handed hitter right now. I think it's clear. Stanton might help that a little bit, but not super well. Only because it's going to be kind of inflexible the way that you can use him. Pablo Reyes, isn't it? I think it's just it's got to be a high priority for the Yankees. It's not. Look, they're in first place. They almost came back today when they were down 6-0, and we got Jose Ramirez today. That happens to a lot of teams. But this is not like a 5-alarm fire. This is not like last year when we're like, they don't have a left fielder. Like, what are we going to do? Right? They need a righty bat. It's got to come before the trade deadline. It's not going to come internally. And I think that Dominguez just makes that problem a little bit worse.
Yes. All right. Last one. And then we're going to get into your very fascinating post. Cody Bellinger.
Yeah. The good. Looks good on defense, I guess. Looks like a professional outfielder. Has looked good. They moved around to the 3 outfield slots and hasn't looked out of place anywhere. I think that I'm really concerned that Cody Bellinger is just bad, just a bad hitter. We're talking about a guy with a weird track record. I think some guys deserve the benefit of the doubt this early in the season. Jazz Chisholm, I think, has a track record, and there's no reason to believe he's going to revert back. He's going to lose it all this year. Jason Dominguez is a young player that I think, you would expect, you give him some run, he's going to improve. Cody Bellinger is 29 years old. He has had one great season of his last 4.
This is going back to what we were saying earlier at the top. Just look at the statistics. This isn't hard, right?
881 OPS in 2023. StatCast thinks he got lucky. Now, he was still fine on StatCast, just thinks he got a little lucky. Now, he does have a thing where he pulls home runs pretty deep down the line, and those guys tend to outperform their ex-Woba a little bit because ex-Woba doesn't know kind of where in the field you go. It just knows the exit velocity and launch angle. So it makes sense, right? You pull it down the line, especially in Yankee Stadium, you get a few extra home runs. And he had kind of reinvented himself after his 2021, 2022, just disastrous seasons that got him released as a contact guy. So he compensated by hitting for contact and not swinging as hard. And so he became kind of a lower average guy.
He seems to be swinging very hard this year, and he seems to be trying to hit home runs.
It's an ugly swing too. I don't know. Like he swings like I do. Like he doesn't move his legs. I don't know. He looks like his stats are almost identical to the bad version of him. 2021, 2022. Low contact, doesn't hit the ball particularly hard. Just nothing good. And I was hoping we would get the high contact kind of Yankee Stadium optimized version of Bellinger, and we might not. And here's the bad news: is if he's really this bad, we're stuck with him next year too.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's early. He's had a back injury that could explain some of this. He's had the wings thing. So like I don't want to. I'm not like 10 out of 10 concerned for Bellinger. But I'm pretty concerned, in part just because I don't think he deserves the benefit of the doubt, right? I don't think that we should just assume that the default condition is that he goes back to 2023. He could go back to 2024, 751 OPS.
Yeah,
like that's
and listen, I wanted the Yankees to get him. So
I thought he made sense for the Yankees. They needed a center fielder. I don't know who the center fielder would be if they didn't. Like Verdugo would be in left field or something like that. They really just didn't have any options. But I'm concerned. Look, he seems like a good dude. I like him. He seems like a team leader. He's still athletic, right? He hasn't lost any sprint speed. He's still good on defense. So, the warning sign, it's not like Anthony Rizzo this time last year where we were looking at him going like, nothing is working right now. I think he's toast. I don't think he looks toast, but he looks worrying. I will be keeping an eye on Bellinger quite closely, I think.
All right, EJ, here we go. You wrote an article.
Yeah.
It's deep. And you ended with a question, right?
Yeah, because I know the answer. I raised some questions. I don't have answers.
All right, so tell us what you wrote and explain it to us, please.
Okay. So, like many of you listening, and probably you, Paul, spent a lot of time on Baseball Reference, right? Just looking at teams. And just one thing that popped out to me, just looking at a lot of 2025 teams and then kind of looking back in 2024, is there's a lot of stars and scrub teams. Teams with 3 or 4 players that are just really bad, right? I'm looking at Baseball Reference. You're talking about an OPS plus of like 80 or less. You look around, even like the good teams this year, the Toronto Blue Jays, they have a couple of guys who are just awful. And that's been the Yankees experience for a while, like the stars and scrubs team. And I've been thinking about that a little bit, I've had a theory for a while about what this might look like statistically. And I finally kind of got around the other day to actually grabbing the data and analyzing it. And you can check out my Substack for the actual data. There's some, I use the word leptokurtosis quite a lot. There's this is what I do for a living, right?
You wrote that. And at one point there are, I don't know, something like 922 different charts. They're all little tiny charts. And you say, if that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, trust me, I do this for a living. They mean
pretty
something.
much. I mean, look, there's a distribution called a leptokurtic distribution, and it looks like a TIE fighter from above. big peak and then nothing and then big tails. And my dissertation advisor is retiring. We're doing holding a retirement party for him in November. And someone is, I'm not going to be partaking, but somebody is going to be bringing a tattoo artist to the retirement party to get leptocritic distributions tattooed on people's arms. So this is what we do. This is our thing. Okay. I look at a distribution, I look at a histogram, and they mean something.
Is that peer pressure? You go to a retirement party and somebody tries to tattoo you?
There will be, this is Austin, Texas. Come on. There will be temporary tattoos available as well, I'm told. I might be getting a temporary tattoo of a leptocritic distribution on my arm.
What do you do if you have that and you're flexing at the pool and somebody says, "What is that?"
Great talking point. Come on, right? Okay. So this is what I did, right? I took all of the qualified hitting seasons. So you qualify for the batting title since 1990. And I graphed them. And within each season. So all the 1990s, all the 1990 hitters, all the 1991 hitters, all the 1992 hitters, etc. And up until 2022, so 1990 through 2022, they all follow the distribution you would expect. That is what we call a normal distribution. I've heard of a bell curve. So you have 68% of the distribution within the first standard deviation, 95% of the distribution within the second standard deviation. This is as expected. Most things follow normal distributions. Normal distributions are created by lots of little random dice rolls adding up to each other. So my favorite thing I use for my, I don't know if you ever heard of the game Settlers of Catan. I use this in my class for grad students. Settlers of Catan is a game where you roll 2 dice. And whatever happens depends on the roll of those 2 dice. And 2 dice, when you roll them together, form a normal distribution. That is, you have more 7s, slightly less 9s and 5s, and not that many 2s and 12s. Imagine that, but instead of having 2 dice, you have hundreds of dice. That's nature. That's the way randomness in nature works. You get baseball players, they all have these little traits that make them a good or a bad hitter. And, some of them are better on some of those traits than others, but they're all kind of randomly, independently distributed. And it comes to a normal distribution. Very, very normal. And every year from 1990 to 2022, you have a normal distribution of baseball players. Sometimes you have like one outlier, like Barry Bonds comes by and kind of drives things a little bit crazy. Aaron Judge comes by in 2017, 2022 is an outlier. Like normal distributions have outliers. But something changes in 2023 and especially 2024. And that is the distribution becomes non-normal. It becomes, there's some missing hitters in those distributions. So in both of those years, you have more than you would expect average hitters. So average in today's baseball is like a 715 OPS. A little bit better than average. A couple of guys getting like 730 OPS. And then you have a lot more than you would expect elite hitters. Think Judge, Soto, Ohtani, even a step down from that, Brent Rooker, those types of guys. They're putting up batting lines when offense is down that would have won an MVP award when offense wasn't down. So, for example, Gary Sheffield was second in MVP voting in 2004. We all remember that as Yankee fans. I was a big Gary Sheffield fan, fun player to watch. He had a 927 OPS. So he had a 290 batting average, 393 on base, 534 slug. That would not have been a top 5 or 6 MVP award voting, even close, frankly, in 2024. There's a bunch of guys who are better than that. And then what's missing is everybody in between. So you have a lot of not that great kind of mediocre players in the center. You have extra elite players. And you're missing the guys who are above average, well above average. Think about kind of like low-level all-star types. Guys who are hitting, have an 820 OPS in today's baseball. Pretty good, right? Like guys who are, those are, you could go back and look at some kind of old Yankees teams. They had like 4 or 5 of those guys. And then you are also missing the below average players who have like a 680 OPS. So you have a moving of the distribution to the tails. So a lot of guys are either moving the shoulders. So the guys who are above average or below average most of them are moving in toward the mediocre. And a lot of them, a handful of them, but more than you would expect, are moving out toward the tails. It's a stars and scrubs distribution. It is essentially the 2024 Yankees, right? Juan Soto and Aaron Judge and a bunch of guys that you don't want to watch play. The 2025 Yankees, Ben Rice, Paul Goldschmidt, Aaron Judge, and a lot of guys who are hovering around that mediocre middle. They don't have any really bad players on the team right now. Maybe Bellinger, right? But very typical. And if you look around rosters in baseball, there's a lot of guys like that. And there's just not a lot of guys who are slightly above average, slightly below average. And I think this explains offense right now. Something is going on that is compressing hitting. So it is really hard to be an above average hitter. Maybe it's changes to pitching. I don't know. This change coincides with the rule changes in 2023, but I don't see the connection there.
You're saying the pitch clock is really doing
is the pitch clock. I mean, maybe I don't think it's any base running stuff. Maybe it's the shift, but I don't see that, right? Doesn't make sense to me. And so you're getting this more mediocre players. Most major league players are more mediocre. And then a couple of players are elite. So some players have done better than average against this. So Aaron Judge is putting up what is probably the best season of all time. Right now, and just did it last year.
Last couple of years,
right? Like the greatest right-handed hitting season of all time, I think was his 2024 season. I think the second best is his 2022 season, and he is better so far in 2025 than he wasn't in either of those. And he was actually better than his 2022 season in 2023 before he got injured, right? So then you look at, say, Juan Soto put up one of the greater hitting seasons in Yankee history, at least last year. And you just go down the list. There's a lot of guys who have been incredible. Francisco Lindor just had an incredible season. There's a good, 20 or 30 players in baseball Shohei Ohtani, who are just doing things that you didn't see not that long ago. I mean, look at some of the MVP award winners in like 2013. They're just not, they're just like the guys who are a little bit better than the other guys. They're not these big outliers. And then you have all these just mediocre players. You think about how hard it's been for the Yankees to find like a left fielder who can hit, or a first baseman who could hit, or a third baseman who could hit. I think that's now typical, that there's just there's not that many guys to go out and get who can hack it, who are fine. If they had gone out and they got Nolan Arenado has been one of these mediocre guys this year. If they had gone out and gotten, I don't know who is, Harrison Bader, I don't know, is probably similar there, right? You can just go down the list, and it's frustrating because you can't find anybody who's a star or is just good. Right. Not you don't have to be, again, I'm not talking about elite players. I'm talking about guys with like a 120 OPS plus, like just really good, good, solid players that you should just see a lot more around baseball. And I don't know what's causing it. I don't have a theory of what's compressing that distribution. So far, we don't really know about 2025. This is going to persist into 2025, but eyeballing it does, but there's not enough data right now to really do this for that year. But it's weird. Let me give you some examples of systems that produce distributions like this. Now, I should note, I look at distributions way more elliptic-curtic than this. So one of the classic ones is earthquakes. So there are a lot of small earthquakes, and there's more than you would expect given a normal distribution of really big earthquakes. And there are very few medium-sized earthquakes. I don't know what the Richter scale numbers are, but there's a point in the Richter scale, you're just missing a lot of earthquakes. The reason for this is that earthquakes follow what's called a stick-slip system. So you don't want to get in the plates, they're sliding against each other, they get stuck, pressure builds up, and the longer the pressure builds up, the greater the release. If they don't get stuck, you get these teeny tiny earthquakes. But if they get stuck, they don't move until the force is great enough to overcome the friction. The resistance. So for example, the San Andreas fault, the big one, is coming one of these days. There's a fault off the coast of Seattle that only blows up once every 500 years because it gets stuck, and then boom, there's a big earthquake, and it's going to destroy half of Seattle one day in the future. That's a typical system where we see these distributions. That doesn't make sense for baseball, right? We don't get these kind of pressure cooker systems in baseball. So I don't know, something is causing the best players to be better at everything and most players to be worse at everything. And I don't know what it is. And I think it's why we don't see offense, right? Most players cannot put up a reasonable offensive performance today. And that's and that's reflected in their numbers. Like the average hitter is worse, even while the best hitters are better.
Amazing. I can't wait to hear a follow-up.
Well, if anyone has any ideas, I'd love to know. I got nothing. Like that's just I got no follow-up. I have no theory.
Well, EJ, you're a smart man. And I have a sense that over time, sometimes theories develop too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but like it's a weird phenomenon. It makes you love Aaron Judge, but this isn't just Aaron Judge. This is a more than that. I think there were 50 players who I labeled elite in 2024. I think they had a WRC plus, Fangraphs version of OPS plus, over 120. And in 2016, there were 38, right? So you have these extra elite players, and then you're missing a bunch of the players in the middle. Very weird.
Very interesting. All right, let's do a couple more, one good, one bad, and then we
Sure.
could maybe talk a little about Judge, and that'll probably put us at the end of the hour. It goes too quickly, as always. Trent Grisham.
One good is he's been good, really, really good. One bad is I don't believe it. Look, players get hot. You have guys who have strong Aprils, and sometimes we just know as baseball fans that sometimes those strong Aprils are just a hot streak that occurs in April, so his numbers look good. And players have hot streaks all the time. Mm-hmm. And when it's in April, it feels a little more real because he hasn't had the bad numbers before that. I just think that's what's going on with Trent Grisham right now. I think that I think it's a good sign. I think that he deserves playing time. I think he should play the hot hand. Mm-hmm. But he's going to come down to earth at some point. The question is, where does he come down to? Maybe he's just decided to be a power hitter. And so he's going to swing hard and early and pull a bunch of home runs. I don't know. But the numbers are great right now. He looks solid in the field. Had a nice play throwing a runner out the other night. I think he should play over Bellinger right now. And frankly, over Dominguez. He's a free agent, so I'm sure he's motivated. But I suspect his numbers. He may not bat under 200 on the season because he's already gotten a lot of hits kind of toward that. But I suspect that it's going to be closer to 200 than 300 going forward.
I agree with this 100%. This is, as you know, EJ, on Tuesdays on Start Spreading the News at 10 a.m., we run in a series of articles called the Tuesday Discussion. I present a question to the writers, and the writers respond, giving me their thoughts. And those thoughts are usually diverse. So these next two guys sort of go together. The question on the Tuesday Discussion is, should Luke Weaver be the new closer?
For now.
Yeah. So what do you think about Devin Williams, and what do you think about Luke Weaver? Well, one good, one bad, and a prognosis.
Well, one other bad thing is I'm going to have to leave you in a second because I just got texted about a baby I got to go help take care of.
Oh, no. Well, that's hopeful as well. Taking care of the baby is fine.
But let me just say really quickly, I think Devin Williams will be fine eventually, but right now you can't let him close games right now. You got to have someone behind him who can take over for him if he's not right. He's not striking guys out. Something is wrong. He's got a track record as one of the best players in the world. I'm sure he'll get back to it unless he's injured. It doesn't seem like he's injured. His fastball velocity is the same. His movement is the same. But until he starts striking guys out again, it's not Devin Williams anymore. And then Luke Weaver has been incredible. He's been like the best reliever in baseball this year. So let's keep doing that. But I got to go. Paul,
thank you. Take care of of little Edward, and we'll see you next week.
See you later. Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stay for at least a minute or two more and wrap this baby up. We didn't get a chance for EJ to walk through his article, which you can find on Start Spreading the News. He did reference it a bit. He has written a number of times. The first time he wrote this was in 2022, and he said Aaron Judge just had one of, if not the greatest season of all time. Then after 2024, he wrote that again, and Judge is outperforming both of those seasons early on in 2025. So check out that article on Start Spreading the News. In regard to the closers, here's a trivia question for you all. How many saves did Rich Goose Gossage have in the month of April 1978? To put you back in the time machine, In 1977, the Yankees had Sparky Lyle as their fireman. You didn't really call the top relief pitcher a closer back then. They most often closed the games, but they didn't just pitch the ninth inning. Sparky Lyle would come in the seventh inning. There was a playoff game where he came in very early and pitched like 6 or 7 innings against the Royals. Anyway, he won the Cy Young Award. The next year, the Yankees brought in Goose Gossage, a flame-throwing closer, and in theory, it was going to be Gossage and Lyle who were going to close out the games, but it soon became very apparent that Gossage was going to be the number one guy out of the pen. A lot of this is also chronicled in Sparky Lyle's book, which is very similar to Jim Bouton's Ball 4. Sparky Lyle's book was called The Bronx Zoo. I recommend them both. They're great, enjoyable reads, full of great humor. They're both diaries of a season, both with a pitcher who had past success, though Lyle had more, and who was frustrated by the fact that their career isn't what it was seemingly the day before. More of that for Lyle because he's the Cy Young Award winner, the reigning Cy Young Award winner, less for Bouton, who hadn't been good in about 5 years. But I recommend both books. But anyway, Gossage comes in. He's the new closer. He's the new fireman. He's the big guy. He gets the big contract. Guess how many saves he had in April 1978? If you guessed 10, you're wrong. You guessed too high. If you guessed 5, you're wrong. You guessed too high. If you guessed 2, you're wrong. You guessed too high. If you guessed 1, you're wrong. You guessed too high. He had 0. He did not get his first save of the year until May, his 9th appearance of the year. Of course, Rich Gossage would go and pitch to a Hall of Fame career, brought about in large part by the great success he had as a Yankee from 1978 to 1983. And then again, at the end of his career, he made a return and he pitched well for the Padres in there, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of his Hall of Fame resume was built wearing the pinstripes in those major years when he was pitching for the Yankees. So I'm not all that worried about Devin Williams. Sometimes the transition to New York is difficult. Roger Clemens had a difficult transition. Tino Martinez had a difficult transition. Jason Giambi had a difficult transition. There's lots of players who had difficult transitions to the Yankees and eventually figured it out. So, he's off to a slow start. As EJ was saying about Trent Grisham, if you get a hot start, you think it might last all year. He and I both believe it won't last for Grisham. You get off to a bad start, looks like you're terrible because there's just not a body of work to base it against. But I think with enough innings, enough games, Devin Williams will be Devin Williams. Check out Start Spreading the News tomorrow at 10 a.m. And you can see what many of the writers for Start Spreading the News are saying about Devin Williams and Luke Weaver with the question, should Luke Weaver be the stopper for the Yankees, the closer right now? Just a reminder, this show was brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. Artemisia has a plethora of great books. They also have my wonderful novel, speaking of great books, Scattering the Ashes. If you have not read Scattering the Ashes, your life just cannot. It's incomplete. It cannot be complete. Scattering the Ashes is something that everyone needs to read. You need to read it 50 times, 100 times. And then you need to buy copies for each of your favorite 5,000 people in the world. It is my novel, the only novel I've ever written. I have a few more. One has been written but not published. I haven't even edited it yet because I have so many book ideas. So right now it's my one and only novel. It's an award-winning novel. It's fantastic. Okay, it's a little hyperbole when I say you need to read it 50 times. And if you haven't read it, your life isn't complete. But I'm telling you, you read that book, it's about family, it's about love, it's about relationships, it's about stresses at work, it's about a man and his girlfriend, it's about a father and his son, it's about a relationship with God, it's a book of faith, it's a book of running, it's a book with baseball references. There is so much there. It's a travel log. You say to yourself, wow, how can so many things happen in just one novel? And along the way, it's also hysterical. There are scenes in that book that are going to make you laugh. Scattering the Ashes, just one of the many books published by Artemisia Publishing. Check them out online at apbooks.net. All right, my dear friends, I want to thank everyone for watching or listening. This has been the Start Spreading the News podcast. We are here every Monday, mostly live at 9 p.m. here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Have yourselves a great day. Have yourselves a wonderful week, and we'll see you here again Monday night. Take care, my friends.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.